Hello and welcome back to Coin Matters channel. The Ripple SEC lawsuit will not be resolved in this video, and I want to explain why. I haven't seen scenery like this in years. After looking over a large number of earlier SEC cases, I found that close to 95% of them were settled. Since other similar lawsuits had ended in settlements, I reasoned that this one would, too. A brilliant attorney I met with just now outlined to me why she did not believe the SEC lawsuit would be settled in our favor. This video will explain why Ripple and the SEC were unable to come to an agreement, and I will share what she stated since it is intriguing information. To kick off this video, I'd like to briefly address a humorous article about Ripple dumping XRP that I occasionally see on cryptocurrency Twitter. In this piece, Mickey B. Fresh elaborates. This has had to be one of the craziest claims I've ever heard, given that the inflation rate for XRP is still only 5.4% after Ripple's introduction to the market. The first thing we should take away from this is that XRP follows the same inflation mechanism as the other major cryptocurrencies. Keep in mind that there will only ever be 100 billion XRP in circulation, therefore conceptually there is no inflation for XRP either. Even if Ripple is constantly pumping more into the market, supply will eventually be exhausted. Many of the people who criticize Ripple for allowing XRP to be traded on the secondary market are also investors in Ethereum, which may be created indefinitely. At least in the case of XRP, it just keeps growing to infinity. We have calculated that at most 100 billion will exist. When we made the investment in XRP, we were also aware of Ripple's plans to list the cryptocurrency on the market. When people outside of the XRP community try to cast this in a negative light, I just have to laugh. The funds generated by the sale of XRP are invested back into the ecosystem by Ripple. They're working to enhance the XRP ledger by creating more validators, financing initiatives, doling out grants, and more. Miners of virtual currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum do so solely for financial gain. They're just trying to get rich quick, and it's comical to me that everyone complaining about Ripple is completely oblivious to the fact that the same problem is occurring on their own blockchains, only more so. The main reason I want to bring this up is that I think it's important to understand that stories like these are really just book marketing. What they are saying makes zero sense. Extreme hypocrites, they refuse to even contemplate the possibility that the same thing is happening on the networks they administer. And before I move on, I'd want to point out that whenever people like this attack Ripple and the XRP ledger, they typically rehash old criticisms from 2013 and 2014. Since XRP, Ledger has had the most widespread and institutional adoption of any cryptocurrency. They always avoid talking about the present situation. Ripple, which is now suing the SEC in court, will make XRP the first cryptocurrency with guaranteed transparency in the US market. People simply bring up these subjects because they're the only ones they can think of that could serve as the basis for a tale. They'd like to highlight their dissatisfaction with the 2013 SRP distribution by Ripple. If they try to make up a story on anything today, they will fail spectacularly. Because of this, they continue to make use of these longest proven talking points. But look, they're just going to be left out. And I just think it's really important that the XRP community doesn't fall prey to something like that. Moving on, I'd like to share some details with you about the information I've been given on the Ripple SEC case and why it hasn't settled and likely never will. It was fascinating to me, actually. This material was presented to me by a famous attorney, and I found their arguments to be completely convincing. People are quick to accuse Ripple of fighting for hegemony in the Bitcoin industry, which they claim is delaying the resolution of this litigation. To actively support justice for all and endure the consequences is more courageous than to cut a deal with a corrupt authority for one's own comfort and gain, as stated in a recent statement by Stuart L. Dorado. In essence, Stuart L. Dorado is arguing that it is in the best interest of Ripple and the cryptocurrency industry as a whole to fight for all cryptocurrencies. We will not make peace with the SEC, which is actively oppressing this industry. That isn't the right way to act. Ripple is attempting to do the right thing. To ensure that the rest of the cryptocurrency industry can learn from Ripple's decision and contributions in their own fights with the SEC, the company plans to fight the SEC tooth and nail while also getting clarity for XRP. I think this is mostly correct, but I think it's important to emphasize one key issue. Stuart El Dorado made it clear in a recent interview with CoinDesk that this issue will be resolved tomorrow if the SEC is willing to come forward and offer XRP with explanation. Now, I think that stands in stark contrast to what he is saying here. And I'd like to shed some light on how that's even possible. Therefore, I think it's vital to recognize that Ripple's strategy for fighting the SEC has evolved. What if, the day after bringing suit against Ripple, the SEC had said, "Okay, you know what? We blundered, and not for the sake of safety. Please settle this fine, XRP, so that we may proceed." That would have been fine with Ripple. However, things are very different now. Ripple has already given the SEC a swift kick in the rear. They released the Heinemann documents, and it looks like XRP will get the clarification it needs from Judge Torres. This would be a huge boon for Ripple. As a result, they have less incentive to seek a genuine settlement with the SEC. The truth is that we are really close to closing this case. Even with a compromise from the SEC, they've shown beyond a reasonable doubt that it wouldn't be done honestly. Then why make the effort now? Is there any value in giving the SEC what they want now, which could be a settlement? Have Judge Torres handed down a severe sentence? Those are some of the most important factors, in my opinion. However, there is yet another major point that must be made crystal plain. The SEC is optimistic about its prospects here. The SEC is no longer confident in its ability to label XRP as a security. Nothing of the sort will occur. The SEC maintains hope that it can force Ripple to file reports on any more purchases with the agency. However, if Ripple ever wanted to sell XRP again for profit or to earn money for anything other than utility like HODL, it would be required to register such transactions with the SEC. As such, it's puzzling why the SEC is so adamant that it happen. One day, Ripple will undoubtedly be worth $1 trillion. Ripple might make hundreds of billions of dollars off of XRP sales in the next decade to 15. The SEC would like to be a part of that deal. The Securities and Exchange Commission requires Ripple to keep track of these transactions. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is making moves to intervene in Bitcoin businesses and may succeed. I've said from the start of this case that XRP is not a security token. To raise capital, Ripple might offer XRP to institutional investors exclusively in the future, but this could necessitate registration with the SEC. Moreover, there's really no reason for it. I'm just letting you know that I've spoken with competent attorneys at the SEC who have told me that the agency may choose to register future sales of XRP despite the fact that they have no chance of winning in their allegation that XRP is a security. Ripple. Therefore, despite their dismal performance, the SEC still has a remote chance of victory. Therefore, Ripple is obligated to disclose any planned purchases. You might be wondering in light of this, why the SEC wouldn't just make a settlement offer to Ripple. Although you may claim that XRP is not a security, future transactions must still be recorded. That's not a compromise that Ripple would ever agree to. The judge could rule that XRP is not a security, which would be good news for Ripple. In my opinion, the fact that you may decide how to sell XRP is the root reason of the impasse. Judge Torres is likely to decide that Ripple can use XRP and HODL products for utility, which the SEC sees as a positive development. But if you want to raise capital through trading and don't mind being registered, and Ripple thinks Judge Torres would say publicly, "You know what? XRP is not a security in any way. You're free to sell it however you see fit." There will also never be a day when the SEC and Ripple agree on these 2 points of contention. Ripple will not want the SEC involved if they decide to sell XRP for hundreds of billions of dollars. Ripple would rather take a chance and go to trial right now in the hopes that Judge Torres will just hand down a favorable ruling in their favor. Plus, that isn't registration with the SEC. Ripple claims that the possibility of XRP being labeled a security has already been eliminated, but I still think it's important to highlight the issues that are still up for debate so that you have a thorough understanding of the underlying issues at play here. The question of whether or not Ripple will be required to file for registration of future sales for profit or future sales for charitable reasons is, I believe, still open to argument. The most important thing is that Ripple understands that XRP can't be turned into a security at this time. And I'd like to talk about it. This is incredible, a recent tweet from John Deaton, which may or may not be related to the topic at hand. Ripple also did not ask Judge Torres to dismiss the SEC's complaint. Ripple could not even ask Judge Torres to dismiss the litigation due to the SEC's absurd claims that XRP was a security. This move was entirely discretionary for Ripple. So, we have to wonder why Ripple didn't just ask to be fired. I think this is because this situation has always been something Ripple knew they needed. Ripple never did anything illegal. The SEC had obviously made a huge mistake as a result. It was plain to see that XRP had been introduced into the system. Since the SEC filed this case, Ripple knew that the agency was involved. Whether they liked it or not, Ripple knew they would have to explain XRP at some point. I find this very interesting since it shows that Ripple is confident in their compliance with the law and that XRP will get the necessary clarification despite the SEC's incompetence. It proves that Ripple's intentions worked out exactly as intended. The SEC has been consistently outmatched by Ripple, and I think it will only be a matter of time until we start to see this as a blessing in disguise. For the record, gents, thank you so much for coming today. I trust you enjoyed this bit of news. Those that done so are asked to remember to subscribe and give a like. Bye.